Okay, now we're starting. Okay, today's we're dealing with the stars, and the stars have a special place in astrology, but it's not the most prominent in day-to-day workings. It sits there as a higher frequency or as another layer of information, just like the I Ching was another layer, the pentans and the subpentans were another layer of information. The eightfold path and eightfold divisions of the seasons and to the 64 and all of these these are all, they extend it beyond just planets and signs and how's all that's there, all that's a solid foundation. But once you got that together, and with the transits, that's the motor mechanics. Then this is the embellishment and that puts it on top. Those motor mechanics allow you to begin to fathom and perceive on a progressed or on a higher level. With the stars, it's interesting. 1/10 of the light that hits the planet comes from the stars. 90% of the light that hits the Earth comes from the sun and reflected light. From the light from the planet is just reflected sunlight. So it's all sunlight. There wouldn't be life without the sun. It's the main heart and soul of the system. But 1/10 of the light comes from other stars. And these other stars, they're just high. Those stars are bigger than our sun would be. Most of them are bigger, much bigger and brighter than our star would be. They're just so far away, we don't see them. So it's like if the sun's like our master or our higher spiritual being, these are other spiritual beings that are far away that we can, it's a high frequency. Most people don't even listen to the stars. They're not even tuned into them. You have to be living your life on a certain frequency in your imagination and your thought, have it clear enough to be able to tune into stars. It's like, can you hear? It's hard enough to sit down and listen to someone else, much less listen to higher frequencies, listen to the angels or listen to these other beings. So there's times when we're inclined to tune into these more than others. We'll get to it, but today we have to just talk about circumstances around the stars and see some of the mechanics around it. Okay, now, okay, so here's the sphere of heavens. This is an old drawing of just the sphere of the heavens, where you can see the equator, the ecliptic, and the horizon of the main coordinates, the main three systems that we kind of work with. So here you see the ecliptic. It's highlighted in a reddish orange. It was red, but the black behind it, it turned orange. But it's you can see the ecliptic. Some drawings you'll see the ecliptic as the parallel one as being at 90 degrees. But we have the equator being 90 degrees. But this is the ecliptic. This is a circle of the planet. The sun moves along, and the planets move around that in that direction. This one, it's a blue with the black. It turned to kind of grayish purple, but there's a blue highlighting the equator going around, which is parallel. It's like it's the 90-degree line. So it's showing the equator. So this will be like the sphere of the Earth in the space. This is the equator put out, and the bent one, which the other one is our horizon for the place we were born, which was the rising and setting. Of where we're born. So this is a plane of the horizon they call it the rational horizon, and I think Irwin calls it the local space. No, yeah, I think it's just from the space where you're born, how you see it. But because the equators and the ecliptic are fixed, where we are on the Earth is somewhere on the globe. We're not in the center of the globe, where these would just be exactly all aligned, but we're somewhere on the surface of it, and the globe isn't a circle to begin with. It's bit of an ellipse or a distorted circle. So as we move up on different parts of it, we get the horizon changes, going up to the North Pole, and as it gets inclined to that. But when we see the horizon, there's points. If you look at the line going straight up the top, that would be like the midheaven. Okay, and out of the horizon, where the horizon cuts the ecliptic, one side and the other side, that would be where the ascendant and the descendant would be. And that's not so easy to see exactly on here, but we'll just go along. Again, we're still seeing the horizon, it's just colored in a little bit more solidly. This is the axis of the north. This is the north. It's the way they was drawing. The drawing has the north-south axis here going right square the equator on an angle to the ecliptic and on an angle to the horizon of where we would be. And but it's nice drawings to see the space. So like it's 3 coordinate systems: the equator, the houses are based on the equator, and the equator we get unequal or diversified because we're not on the center of the Earth, and because it's an angle according to like what would be exactly 12 divisions around the equator. It's not going to be the same as the 12 divisions around the Earth in the local space or the plane of our horizon. So this is and the ecliptic's at an angle to that too. So they each are valid in their own circle, but we're in astrology, unfortunately, we tend to mix. There really should be 2 drawings, one's for the signs and one's for the houses, because the ecliptic is on one angle and the houses are on the other. Because it's the same general circle, they've been put together on a drawing. And there's certain distortions and inaccuracies that come from doing that. So having the signs and the houses on a chart form, there's blind spots or distortions that come from that. Really, it should be 2 separate charts. It should be 2 separate charts, one's signs, one's houses, and there wouldn't be the seeming confusion there is today in the house systems. Okay, so this is the here we have the equator and we have this zone. Here it's the kind of blue zone, and this zone is it goes up to the Tropic of Cancer and down to the Tropic of Capricorn. So this zone is determined by the ecliptic, which the highest the sun goes is up to the Tropic of Cancer, 23 degrees, 28 minutes. The lowest it goes 23 degrees, it goes down, hits the southern hemisphere, it gets down to that lowest point. And that is how we've mapped it out. Like I talk about astrology, Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer. The sun is at the Tropic of Cancer on the longest day. It's at the Tropic of Capricorn the longest night, as the Earth moves around the sun, or the sun moves around the Earth. As we're looking at the chart, it's really the Earth moving around the sun. So here you see the horizon, and it's not exactly right. You see the shaded half. I've done the shade half looking from the plane, but here's the shaded half and the light half. So the sun would be over on our far right, shining over. Really done this to accentuate the equator and the ecliptic. The drawings could be improved, and I'll try and get that done at some point for the local space or the horizon. So here we have the dark side lights, and we see the ecliptic. We have the equator. We have the dark side. They have the ecliptic moving, we have cycle moving up and down, and we have the light and dark of the day. So half the planet's always light, half the planet's always dark. coming from the sun. And we measure the planets in the degrees of the zodiac as it goes around the ecliptic. The houses, we give them the meaning and we give them degrees of the zodiac, but really they're at a different angle. They're not, it really should be, the degrees don't mean exactly the same thing. They're not exact positions. They're where they happen to cross, which is what this whole talk is about. So it takes a long time to get your astronomy sense, to be able to look up, see the stars, understand what houses they're in, and see and getting that sense of where it is. I think if you're trying to really just observing, if you see each of these slices or drawings as slice of an orange, you know, and if you cut the orange at each angle, you would have basically the 3 different ways of looking at the orange, 2 different angles that it's cut at. One straight evenly across, the other 2 on angles. And when you look at the south and you look at the planets, and you see planets to the left or to the east, you see them in like sections of these peels, of these of slices of orange, or little pieces of the orange. It's in that piece of the orange, or it's that piece, or it's in that house, this house, that house, because they're not just flat houses along the line, they're really a texture of space. But this again shows the ecliptic, but it's added the depth with 7 degrees. The planet, most of the planets except for Pluto, stay within this 7 degrees. And so as they all move around, they move around the same circle around the ecliptic, but they can be north or south. They each have their own. They would be, every other planet would have its own tilt to this. But as they do, the sun can never move below the Tropic of Capricorn or above the Tropic of Cancer. But the planets can be, because they can be north or south of the ecliptic. And if they're north or south of the ecliptic, they can be in that zone above the Tropic of Cancer and below the Tropic of Capricorn. These are measuring you see this by measuring the declinations, and the declinations, that's called out of bounds when it happens. It's just beyond the normal bounds of the sun or the ecliptic. Okay. So here I've using this system, I've done this with the okay, here's the you see the ecliptic, the red part of the ecliptic. You see the blue equator going around, and the equator, the solid lines going up and down are the houses based on the equator. The Earth is on its equator, is turning around, and it's the equal houses based on the equator. 12 hours a day, the Earth's turning evenly, and that would be the division. But when you're looking at the lines of the house cusps, you see this would be the ascendant right in the front, the descendant below, and you see if you take this black line going up, you see this black line going up to the right to the left of the center as we're looking at it. There's a whole peel there, a slice. That slice is it's square to the equator, but when it hits the ecliptic degrees are marked like that red line that's going. It's going square, sort of square to the ecliptic, but the black line crosses that at an angle. But the degree that it crosses the ecliptic is what we consider the degree of the house cusp. So they can be, they're not going to be, see, you can see the section here, it's not going to be an equal 30, it's going to be, this one's going to be bigger than the 30 degrees of the equator, it stretches longer. Somewhere else it'll be much shorter. But these are how the houses cut across, the houses from the equator cut across the signs of the orbit of the Earth. And they're not exactly aligned, so there's going to be a distortion that comes from this.